Hello YouTube and welcome back to Kaiser Games. It has been a while. I think it's been like 9 or 10 months since I put a video up, and that's largely just because real life has gotten very busy. Um, we'll take a little moment of blatant self-advertising here and just go, the reason it's busy is because of these guitars that are behind me. I've combined with a couple of very talented musicians, friends of mine that I've had for a very long period of time. We've been working on a project for the last probably 2 years, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I've been basically writing and recording music for a band called Black Iris, and if you guys want to help us out, I will leave a link to our SoundCloud down in the description below. Please go and check it out. I would love to get our music out there so that you guys can enjoy it. But that's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to talk about a race that we had last night, racing in GT Club League's GT4 series. It's a series run by Steve Duro, who's a good friend of mine. He's been involved in the Go Race stuff as well, and it's using the Gorilla GT4 mod, which I originally thought was actually a port of the GT4s that they did for a set of Corsa Competizione, but it is actually a ground up mod, and it's really fun. Like, it is super fun. The cars handle really well. They've all got individual strengths and weaknesses, which makes it really cool. And overall, they're just a really fun car to drive. The setup options on them are quite limited, so while the cars are very reactive to setup changes, but they're limited to the fact that you can't change a hell of a lot, so you don't get as lost. Especially if you're like me and you're very amateur and you don't spend a lot of time in practice. It's very easy to sort of dial a car in and get it moderately competitive at most tracks. And the cars are different enough that some of the cars work really well at some of the tracks, and some of the cars work not so well at those same tracks. So the car that we're focusing on here, the number 61 Mobil 1 GMSV Chevy Camaro. The GMSV obviously being General Motors Specialty Vehicles in Australia here. They've replaced the Holden Special Vehicles. They don't actually give me money, neither does Mobil 1, but I think the car looks sick, and Mobil 1 is a great product that I use in my own cars. And of course, I'm a General Motors boy at heart. Very devastated when HSV and Holden closed down, but that's okay. You know, we're pushing on, we're going forwards. So that's my car there, the Chevy Camaro. It works really well at tracks like this where there's a lot of third gear corners. The way that it's geared at the moment, first and second are very short, and then third, fourth, fifth, and the mythical sixth gear that I've never actually used are very long. So it kind of hurts the power band of the car a little bit, because particularly the shift from first to second and then second to third, you actually pull the car out of the power band. Once you go third to fourth, it's a lot better. So once you get into fourth gear, the car is quite quick in a straight line, but getting to fourth gear can be a little bit hard. One of the other issues that I've had with the car because of that gearing is that corners where some of the other cars are using second or first gear, I have to use a gear up because the lower gear doesn't quite work. So out of those slower corners like hairpins and things like that, the Camaro doesn't have the punch that you can get when you're dropping down another gear to be able to actually get out of the corner. So that's a quick rundown of what the mod is. It is a fantastic mod, and the GT Club group is a fantastic group of people. We do basically 2 30-minute races, the second race being reverse grid. So what we're looking at here is the second race of the night. The first race actually managed to finish in the top 5, which was pretty good. after I had a bit of a mistake on the first lap. Forgot to turn my traction control back on after the start, and ended up spinning myself out on the first lap. Unfortunately, I did take another guy with me, Justin, which I didn't realise at the time. I only realised when I looked at the replay again later. But we fought back and we got back to 5th place, which was really good. And then that meant that we started towards the back of the grid, which is, more common for me to be at the back of the grid anyway, for the second race with a whole bunch of the fast guys. So it gave a new dynamic to it. Reverse grid races I've been very critical of in the past. I don't like them. I think they cause unnecessary chaos. But this has probably been the best reverse grid race that I've ever been involved in. It was super clean. The guy who started last actually won the race, which goes to show that even though it was really clean and there weren't a lot of major incidents, the guy that was fastest still got to the front of the field. So it was really, really good. But yeah, it was just a really good experience all around. And the reason that I want to talk to you guys about it is that despite the fact that it was a reverse grid race, A, it was probably the cleanest race that I've ever done in sim racing, and B, it was the closest. I mean, I spent pretty much the entire race in one battle or another, and it was hard work. I mean, I was sweating. The replay should still be up at the time of recording, still be up on Twitch. So head over to my Twitch link, which will be up in the top here somewhere, and also in the description down below to check out my point of view from it. And you'll see that I was wiping sweat off pretty consistently. It was crazy. It was dripping down my face and everything. The racetrack that we're at, Ottawa North, is a fictional racetrack, and it was really challenging. But the cool thing about this racetrack was that it's sort of evened all the cars out. No car had any real specific advantage or disadvantage. It was a really good mix of straights, third gear and second gear corners, and over the course of a lap, the cars all pretty much equalised, which pretty much, I think it's the first track that we've done this season where that's been the case. Most of the time you get there and one type of car is just suits that track. Like 2 rounds ago in the Camaro, I was pointy end of the field. I almost won a race if I hadn't binned myself. But the car was really, really quick there because it was all third gear corners, it was all flowing, and it just suited the Camaro. But then the track that we went to last week was much tighter, a lot more second and first gear corners, and so the Camaro really struggled, and it was really hard to get it dialed in. This track was a really good mix of all that stuff, and so the cars kind of evened themselves out, and we had some really good racing because of it. The other thing that really factored into this race that we haven't dealt with for most of the season is tyre wear. So the GT4 tyres are actually really, really durable. We do have a mandatory pit stop in this series where you do have to take tyres, but realistically you don't. If we were just doing it on tyre wear, you wouldn't even need to. The cars, the tyres are just so durable. But at this racetrack, because it was a lot of third gear corners and especially closing radius corners, so corners where it starts off quite gentle and then tightens, like this turn 1 for example, you really ride the front wheel to get in there. Like you're really loading the front of the car rather than the rear of the car because of the nature of the corner. And so the front tyres in particular, the right front tyre was just getting hammered. And it's probably the first time that I've seen GT4 tyres get into the yellow on our tyre indicators. So that was another bit of complexity to add to it. But anyway, what's going on up in front here is we're watching the start of the race, and I wanted to cover off on the start because the racing was like this pretty much the whole race. So we had fast guys and slower guys and midfield guys and the whole lot all packed in together, but the track is such that it wasn't, like a huge mess. So you can see that I'm in this group of cars towards the back here. That's myself, a fellow by the name of Matt Double, who's quite a good sim racer as well. He's around the outside of me, soon to be the inside of me. Just in front of me is Steve Duro, the bloke who runs the series, and the two Subarus of Lieutenant Lama, I think his handle is, and Justin Rediex, who's a bloke that I've raced in a number of series now. And then just a little bit further up the road is Lee Walker in the... I forget what car he's driving. So yeah, so you can see how tight all this is. You know, like, so Matt's still around the outside. I think we've been side by side for about 6 corners at this point. Josh Hill's in behind there, Steve and Justin and the Llama. They're all in there. And this is about when the pit window opens. And like anybody who's sort of getting a bit nervous about being in all this traffic, I've just gone, nah, I think I might pit. You know, and so did Josh Hill behind me. So we pulled out of it. But the start of this race was a really good example of super tight racing between large numbers of drivers where nothing went wrong. Nobody got punted. Nobody got dive bombed. It was all just really good, close, hard, door-to-door motor racing. It was really, really enjoyable. So that was the start of the race. Gives you a little bit of context as to how it was all playing out. We did go for the early pit stop, which was a bit of a gamble because of that tyre wear that we spoke about. But at the time, it was sort of like, well, risk management. You know, we need to mitigate the risk of being involved in some sort of shenanigans, which that many cars on the track, even though it kind of went well for us, that many cars in such a small space is always a possibility for carnage, which largely I think we avoided, so that was good. It's myself and Josh, we came out in clear track. Like I said, the tyres were degrading quite fast, but I'd gone for quite a conservative setup. So I'd sacrificed a little bit of lap speed to gain a little bit of tyre life. The flip side of that coin is that it was taking about 3 laps for the car to come on. So we're trying to get the tyres up to pressure here. So a lot of the other guys, their tyres are coming up to pressure and they were quick pretty much straight out of the gate. My car was struggling a little bit with that side of it. So the first 3 laps after the pit stop were a little bit hectic, a little bit, don't know how this is going to go. It's we had some natural pace over Josh. What we're going to do now is just skip forward a couple of laps. Yeah, let's skip forward to here. Okay, actually, let's go back a little bit. There we go. All right, so this is where it gets a little bit willing. So this is basically the lap or 2 laps after my pit stop, and we've managed to jump Justin, and we've managed to jump another bloke. Now Justin went down the inside, there's a little bit of contact, and I go sort of into a half spin, recover, and we keep racing. I think it's Ryan Ford is in there as well, and he was quite quick on the night. So a little bit of contact put us back a little bit, but that's all good. That's what motor racing's all about. We had the pace to then close that gap. Matt Double into the pits. Now that was a drive-through, so bear that in mind because a little bit later on he'll feature again. But Matt had to tour pit lane a second time around because he got a drive-through for speeding. The pit lane entry was tricky, to say the least. It was. It was basically straight off that straight. You missed the chicane, and then it actually the pit lane had braking markers. That tells you how fast the pit entry was. So a couple of guys got done in the first race. We made sure that we had a fairly conservative entry to make sure that we didn't get pinged in the second race, and it worked out for us in the end. In any case, here we go. So this is now a 3-car battle for, I think at this point we were 11th, 10th, 11th and 12th or something like that. We're we were the first cars that pitted, so we were down the order a little bit, and we were really battling hard, you know, and it did cost us. Fighting each other cost us, which we'll see that play out as the video progresses. But this is just 3 cars in close proximity fighting each other. Josh was driving really well last night. He didn't quite have the car speed, but he was driving super well. So you can see this section of racetrack, the Camaro was particularly strong. I caught up a lot on Justin. My car balance was good through this particular section, and in particular what I was trying to do was get the run out of this corner here. So the Camaro was particularly good in that little fishhook section. I was able to hold the car tighter, and I was able to get better drive. Now you can hear there, I actually had to lift off the throttle going through the chicane because of the superior drive and the superior straight line speed of the Camaro. But this is an interesting example of being the third car in queue, right? The first 2 guys are going at it, and quite often you just don't have room. But as the third car in queue, you've also got a lot of freedom. Like, I can take the race line right now, whereas both of these guys in front of me are compromised. But yeah, it's a very difficult thing. And this is where it's kind of like, okay, how do we play this? So when you're racing in proximity like this, you really need to think, as Justin has a bit of a netcode issue there, but you really need to think about, okay, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses? Now, I was taking a much narrower entry line into that particular corner than anybody else was, and I was doing that to carry more speed along the face of the corner. It did cause a few issues, like as you can see there. I almost hit Justin, but you know, at this point you're sort of going, okay, where is the car stronger? Where can I make a passing move? Where is the passing move actually going to work? Okay. So it's about this point that I'm realizing my car is faster through this section. I got an armful of aero wash there, which hurt. Now Josh has a mistake. Now that is so easy to do. Let's just go back a little bit. Yeah, we'll go forward a bit. All right. Now this is so easy to do. What happened to Josh here? Okay. This particular part of the track, it's flat out unless you're a little bit wide. Josh was a little bit wide. He collected the fence, and then his car just came out right in front of me. Like, sometimes you just have bad luck, and this was one of them. Let's have a look at it again from my point of view. So I got a bit of aero wash, ran a little bit wide. Josh is well offline, and from there there's only one place you're going, into the fence. Now I was like, where is he going? Where's he going to stop? Oh, okay, he's going to stop right in front of me. So that was unfortunate. But, you know, it happens. There was no malice in that, and I actually felt sorry for Josh because he was driving really well to keep Justin and I at bay. But it did drop us off the back of Justin a little bit, and it hurt later on in the race, which we'll see as the pit stops sort of unwind. And that was sort of the risk reward of pitting early. We got out of the traffic early on, but we kind of ended up in 2 separate incidents that sort of mitigated us being out of there. So you can see here that Steve Duro and Ryan Ford have actually come out of the pits between myself and Justin. So, you know, without that incident with Josh, we would have been behind Justin. We likely would have come out in front of Steve and Ryan. Same as the contact with Justin earlier on in the race. We likely would have jumped these guys and also jumped Matt Southwell. But yeah, that's not how motor racing works. So now we've got some work to do. we've got some work to do just to catch up at this point, because we lost probably about 6 or 7 seconds with the incident with Josh the previous lap. Now, that car there, cruising along on his own, that's Matt Double. So we'll remember that Matt had a drive-through penalty, which is about 40 odd seconds because of speeding in pit lane. But there he is there in the background. So he's having a great race, and he drove super well. He had a lot of car speed on board, and he was unlucky not to capitalise. So now we're absolutely wringing the Camaro's neck at this point, and it's responding. The Camaro's doing a really, really good job. Like I said, we went for that conservative setup. We bled a little bit of lap time to gain a little bit of tyre life. And you'll also remember that I was speaking about the gearing of the Camaro a little bit earlier in the video. Because of the way that it's geared, it actually feels a lot like driving a KT100J, a Yamaha KT100J from back in my go-kart days. Because I've essentially got to use a higher gear or a lower gear than what a lot of the other cars do. So some corners where other cars can go back to second, I've got to use third. You've really got to hustle the car through the middle of the corner to keep your momentum up, to keep the rolling speed and the revs up. Otherwise, it hurts you all the way down the straight. And the same thing with getting the car sideways. The car doesn't like to be sideways. And if you do get sideways, you tend to bog down. And in the GT4 category anyway, if you bog down coming out of the corner, it can cost you 4, 5, 6 tenths of a second by the time you get to the end of the straight. So it's very important to have a car that was very neutral in its balance. The Camaro was probably a little bit understeery last night, more than oversteery, which also hurts because the Camaro is naturally an understeery car. It's quite heavy. It's quite blocky compared to a lot of the other lower slung cars, and it doesn't like corner entry. It is pretty good in the mid corner, and it's very good in the drive section of the corner if you get it right. But that corner entry is where it suffers. So you can see that we're using every inch of the racetrack available to us trying to catch up. And we're steadily catching Steve, who is steadily catching Ryan, who is right on the back of Justin ReadyX. And we're starting to get towards the business end of the race. Pit stops have all largely cleared themselves by this stage. And it's now a flat-out sprint to the end. And again, the quality of driving in this field during this race was outstanding. There was a lot of overtaking. There was a lot of side-by-side action, a lot of pressure being applied to people. And there weren't many incidents. There was no real punterino. It was all super clean, you know. So we're currently sitting more or less in the calm before the storm. You know, we're all sort of that 1.5 seconds away from each other, but it's all just waiting to kick off. And when you're racing in a category that is this close, one passing move all of a sudden brings 4 or 5 cars together, and that's what we're about to see here. So you can see that I'm pretty sure it's Ryan and Justin up in front. They're starting to battle, which is allowing Steve to close up on them, and in turn I'm closing up on Steve. Sideways with the Camaro, getting 6.2 litres of Chev muscle to the ground. And all the while this is happening, Matt Double is just hunting us down in the background. So now we're close. Now we're within a second of Steve at this point. And now is the time when I'm starting to think, okay, Where is my car significantly stronger than Steve's? The battling of Justin and Ryan has brought them into us as well. So now it's a 4-car battle with Matt Double sitting just off in the wings, waiting for it all to go wrong. So not this lap. We're just having a look. All right. Where have we got it over Steve? So we know that Steve's a bit quicker through turn 1. And what I'm going to try and talk through is what the mind process is at this point, being the car behind. Being the car that's, at the moment 4th in the queue, what am I thinking of? How am I trying to construct my pass without hurting anybody? All right, so at this point, I know that I'm quicker than at least 2 of the guys in front of me, being Justin and Steve. All right, we made up a lot of ground on Steve there. Steve's had to go defensive into this right-hander that just lasts forever. It's just never ending. So we know we're a little bit quicker through that right-hander, but we can't do much with that. Okay, how are we going through here? How's the car balance? I'm looking at what Steve's car is doing. Ryan's finally gotten down the inside of Justin. All right, we know that the Camaro is a little bit more stable through this section of racetrack. That's also good to know. All right, we're going to have a look. Whoops, we've grabbed some grass. We managed to pull out of it. Now, Steve did a great job here. Steve did an absolutely fantastic job here because I was out of control. So, much faster than him through here. A little bit blindsided into this corner. Didn't quite grab my apex and ended up in the grass. Steve was a wake up to it. He went a little bit deeper, left a bit of space, and I was able to recover. He was able to recover, and we both kept racing. That was really good awareness from both Steve and then to give me the space. It was awareness from Steve to give me the space. So big props to him. Now we know that the Camaro is strong in that fishhook. How are we going up the straight? We had to get out of the throttle, I'm pretty sure. So we had a really good run. Coming out of the fishhook. Just had to wave the throttle because the way that the power band on the Camaro worked, we couldn't go too wide through that chicane. It's just not possible. Now Steve just covers. He just covers. And this is something I just want to show you as well. So we're coming through the flat out chicane now. Can't get 2 cars side by side through there. Steve is a bit vulnerable in the straight line, so he just covers. Now there's room for me to go down the inside if I want to. He's not running down the white line. He's just inside the race line, which just gives me the incentive to stay in behind him. All right, let's see what he does. So we're still trying to scope him out. Steve and I have had some really good races during the last year or so. He's incredibly clean and so much fun to actually race against. He's hard to get around, but he's fair. And when he's behind you, he doesn't throw crazy dive bombs and punt you. He drives very cleanly. Now here we go. Have we got a run? Oh, so close. So close. This is fantastic. So we got a good run out of the hairpin. Let's have a look. Steve's a wake up to it though. And he comes across and covers. It was great. It really was. It was fantastic. He was a wake up to it and he covered, but I was expecting it. Let's go back again. I was expecting him to cover, so I didn't overcommit. So I didn't overcommit to the passing move. I knew that I was a fair way back. I knew that I needed compliance from Steve to make the pass work. So I didn't overcommit to the pass. Now Steve decided that he didn't want to let me pass in that area, which he has every right to do. He is the preceding car. He is permitted to take his racing line. Because I didn't overcommit to the passing move, nothing bad happened. And that's a point to take away. especially if you're coming from a little way back, do not overcommit to a passing move that you're not sure of. Now, here we go. Justin is a little bit wide. So he's bottling Steve up. Steve and I are both faster than Justin, and I think I'm faster than Steve. Steve goes for a look on Justin. Justin's on the inside. This is going to slow both of them down. I try and get the run, try and take the shallow line. Wasn't quite able to get there this time. Now look who's in the rear view mirror. Matt Double. Now, at this point in the race, I'm looking in the rear view mirror and I'm going, Matt Double is quick. He's faster than I am. He's faster than Steve. He's faster than Justin. It's at this point that I make a conscious effort. I'm not going to fight Matt Double. Now, we just run Steve into the braking area and he was on the inside. I wasn't going to make the pass stick, but what I wanted to do was see how his car was handling turn one, to see if turn one was a potential passing move. And I decided it wasn't. But what we're going to do now is show the nose, right? We're going to compromise Steve's line. I'm not even thinking of passing him here. What I'm thinking of is, can I compromise his line? Can I force him wide? Which I have. So we've forced him offline. This is where we're now constructing a pass. I'm not trying to pass him in this corner, but I'm compromising his line. I'm making him take the shallow entry, giving myself the drive. And this is where it backfired on me. Steve went defensive, I went high, Matt Double went down the inside. Okay? So if we come back a little bit, you can see. Okay? So we've got a good run on Steve. Here we come into that awkward right-hander. Force him to go narrow, I go higher, late apex and slingshot. Okay? Steve goes to cover, I commit to the outside, open the door for Matt, and Matt throws it in under brakes, pulls it up, does a fantastic job. Now I give him just enough room. Just enough. I probably squeezed him a little bit into the curb, but not too far. I gave him the room. Like I said, we made a conscious decision, or I made a conscious decision not to fight Matt. He was too fast. What I'm going to do is use Matt as an icebreaker. He's going to pass everyone else, and I'm going to pass them. And this is how it's all working out. Right? Right? Justin goes defensive. I go high, late apex. Hold it to the right. Force Justin into a narrow line. Cross back. Textbook. Textbook passing move. All right, let's go back. We're going to come back a little bit to here. All right, and we're just going to go on board. All right, we're going to go bonnet cam. So I'm not fighting Matt. What I'm trying to do is stay in touch because I don't want to be too far back when something happens. Now Justin runs wide at the hairpin. That gives Steve the run. So Steve gets down the inside. Justin's now compromised for his run into this left-hander. He has to hang it wide. Matt does basically exactly what he did to me, does it to Justin. Now Justin's compromised again, has to go wide. I switched to the left-hand side because I judged that he's going to block, which he did. Hang it up high, late apex. Force him now, again, running down the inside. Forces him wide. By mid-corner, we've done the crossback. Okay? We're going to watch that again. I know, it's me bloody self-congratulating myself, but watch. So here we go. Justin goes defensive. I go wide, and we go for the late apex. The late apex gives us drive, but it also forces Justin to go down the left-hand side of the racetrack. Gives me the racing line. Justin runs a little bit wide. We hold the Camaro tight, and then use the drive of the Camaro to get in front of Justin. I know, we're going to go back and watch it again. I know. I'll have a look at another angle. All right, feint. Force him to defend. Go wide. Go for the crossback. Okay. Force him to go narrow again. Crossback. Hold it tight. We've got the racing line. He's on the outside. and we managed to get the drive and head up the back straight. Now, all of that worked because I didn't overcommit to any one move, all right? And I guess that the point that I'm trying to make with this video is that what I see in sim racing a lot is guys overcommitting to a move. We're going to make the pass in this corner. You don't necessarily have to. And that's what happened just there. I could have passed Justin, or I could have attempted to pass on Justin in 1, 2, 3 corners. 4 corners, really. But I set the pass up 4 or 5 corners down the racetrack. I didn't overcommit, but I forced Justin to compromise his own race line. It's patience. And when people talk about racecraft, that's kind of what we're talking about. Now, this is another great example of patience. And remember how I said I wasn't going to fight Matt double. I was going to use him as the icebreaker and follow through in his wake as he overtook people. Well, we just did exactly the same thing. Okay, let's go back. Right, so here we come, down to this nasty little hairpin. Okay, hard on the brakes. Back to third gear, get the car pointed. Steve picks the throttle up a little early and runs wide, grabs a little bit of sand. Matt goes past him. Steve has to pick a side of the track, but he's that compromised that I'm able to get the run on him. And then it's just a case of hang him up a little bit wide so he can't get back around me, and then get the drive. Now, Steve's going to have a look, but all we're going to do is just turn in a little bit shallower and make that gap disappear. All right. Just wanted to take the incentive away from him to nip his nose up the inside. Okay. And then from there, it really is just a case of, this is the last lap of the race. It's now just a case of, we just need to manage this gap to Steve now. We know that the Camaro is fast, so it's just a case of managing the gap. But again, it was patience. It was working with somebody else as well, knowing that that Matt was faster than me. I couldn't compete with Matt. He was way too quick. So there's no point trying to hold him behind me. He's only going to slow me down, slow him down, and we're going to end up in a bad spot. So we let Matt go past, and he was literally the icebreaker, and I just followed his wake. That's Matt Southwell on the horn too, by the way, who finished 5th. So great job to Matt Southwell, well done. But yeah, it's all about patience, all right, and constructing a pass. You don't need to overtake somebody the moment that you get behind them, is I guess what I'm trying to get to with this long and rambling video that we've done. You don't need to throw it down the inside. It's also part of knowing where is a pass going to work and where is it not going to work. Like I said a little bit ago, that chicane coming onto the main straight, there's no way you can get 2 cars through there. So there's no point trying. Couple of times that Steve ran down the inside there and I ran up the outside, it really was just to try and set up the move into the next corner, but I was never intending to go too wide through that chicane. Knowing the nature of the track, the nature of the corner, knowing the people that you're racing with also helps, because you know what their driving style is, and you know if they're likely to drive at you into a corner or if they're likely to try and squeeze you if you try and pass them. But you know, this corner here in particular, so this sort of fishhook kind of thing was a corner where a lot of people were trying to get the pass done in that first section of the corner, when realistically the better thing to do was to get the pass done a couple of corners down the track, so you can set a pass up and then sort of follow it through to its natural conclusion. So I suppose that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I did want to talk a little bit just about how good the quality of the racing was last night. Like, GT Club League, fantastic community, very much like Go Race Promotions, fantastic community, a lot of very high quality sim drivers, a lot of sim drivers that do have respect for the people around them. So I will leave a link to the GT Club Discord. That'll be down below as well. And so if you are watching the video and you do want to join in with this GT4 madness, please do hit Steve up. We'd love to have a full grid again. It'd be great. The more people, the merrier. And it is good, high quality racing with very experienced sim racers and people that have experience in real life as well, which certainly helps. And the other thing that I did want to talk about, which I think I touched on, was constructing a pass, using patience and using that little X factor that we call racecraft. We're all human and we all make mistakes, but having that ability to look forward and set a pass up, construct a pass, know where your car is stronger and know how to use it, and not just go for the dive bomb at every opportunity. Dive bombs are spectacular, and when they work, you look like an absolute hero, but they are a high risk, low reward kind of move. And if you do get them wrong, it all ends in tears and you look like a bit of a numpty. So dive bombs, not always the best thing to do. And like I said, the other thing, not overcommitting to a passing move. The whole reason that I managed to overtake Justin in the end there, like we said, actually if we come back to it, where are we? That's the pass on Steve, so it must be this one here. Yeah, so the whole reason that this whole flow of events happened is because I didn't overcommit to any one move. I didn't overcommit here. I didn't overcommit here. I didn't overcommit here. And then the Red Sea parts. And I didn't even have to overcommit at this point. At this point, it was just using the strength of the car to my best advantage. So I guess that was the secondary point of the video. I know it was rambling and didn't make a lot of sense at times, but if you are a sim racer and you are watching this and you're wondering, why do I get into so many accidents? Overcommittal. Don't overcommit to your passing moves. Be patient. Work the guy in front of you. Sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get around him and you've got to settle for whatever position you're in. And that's fine, because that's still great racing. To all the guys that are featured in this video, to Justin, to Matt, to Steve, to Josh as well, thanks so much for last night. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough that I decided to spend time making a YouTube video today. And also to Matty Southwell for finishing 5th, our 1-6 Motorsport partner going into TCX this week. So thank you very much for joining the team to start with, and congratulations on your 5th place last night, Matty. Yeah, this has been a much longer video than what I intended it to be, and I rambled a fair bit, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I don't want to say, more content will be coming, because we are still very busy with the other project, but I'm hoping to try and get at least a few more YouTube videos out, maybe even once a month if I can. We'll see. But yeah, check out the description below for relevant links, links to my Twitch, links to Go Race Promotions Twitch, links to GT Club, and also links to Black Iris's SoundCloud if you guys would be so kind as to go and check out our stuff. That's it from me, I think. Yeah, it's been a while. 45 minutes is enough, I think. But anyway, thank you very much, and catch you next time.